This is the 117th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the first week of December 2012. This episode is titled Beware Digital Zombies. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud community experts. I'm your host, Zombie Jason Atwood, and joining me is Zombie Justin Elsing. Justin, how you doing?
I don't get it.
You don't get the title of the podcast?
No, I don't get it.
You don't get the title?
I don't get why are you calling me all right, beware digital zombies. No, I don't get the title. And then why are you calling me
We'll get
Zombie
into
Justin?
It'll be funny. So the agenda today, we're going to talk about my blog post called 3 Digital Brains. Digital brains, beware digital zombies to eat your brains.
I don't get it. You're too geeky for me today.
Zombies eat brains.
Well, they eat anything.
No, they eat brains. That's their whole thing, is they eat brains. That's like their food. Yes, in current zombie flicks, but vampires sparkle nowadays, so the whole thing has gone whack. Just saying.
So you're calling back to days of your childhood.
Old zombies.
Like
ate
not
brains.
Walking Dead zombies, which
Right.
are awesome.
Right. I'm talking about normal zombies ate brains and said brains.
Well, these zombies just make weird noises.
All right. Just chew on their tongue. All right. So we have that. And then up we have Evernote for Business? Question mark?
Question.
It's not even a question
mark.
But cool little announcement. And then the top 10 mistakes, classic mistakes that plague software development projects. We'll pick one or two and talk about it.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's kind of a fun little rigmarole. Here we go.
Yeah.
Fun podcast.
Thanks, Mike Gerhold.
Thanks, Mike. That was you posted it.
Well,
First
he
up.
tweeted it. We saw it.
Yes.
From him.
It's on TechCrunch.
It's on Tech Republic.
Tech Republic.
Let's give all the people their due.
First up is a blog post I've actually wanted to write a long time ago. I must have captured this in one of my digital brains. I don't know, 6 months ago.
This has been on the blog post ideas tab for a long time.
Yes.
And I finally found a slot for you.
Yes.
To write it in.
Finally got it there. So the blog post title is called My 3 Extra Digital Brains. It was called My 3 Brains or something, but then I was like, actually, it's your 4th brain and they're digital, whatever. And really talking about, in this day and age, we just like, how do you capture all the stuff that you have, from passwords to client data to, to pictures to to-dos to projects so I was thinking, like, well, what do I use? And it really came down to 3 things that I use that, like, I consider at this point my extra brains. Like, I put things in them like I would put them into my brain. And in fact, they're better than my brain because they remember stuff much, much better. So I talked about it, and basically there's 3 of them. I'm not going to read the whole blog post. It's at blog.arkusinc.com. But what do you think? This is stuff that I've probably been preaching to you for at least as long as all 3 of these brains have been out.
That's correct. I use all 3 of these brains.
Yes, you do.
I use them for differing various purposes, much in the same way that you use them. Go figure. We can call out the brains. Brain number 1, OmniFocus.
Yes,
which people know that you're a GTD guy.
Yes.
And that you're a Mac guy or an Apple guy, and OmniFocus works for you to do your GTD stuff.
Yeah, it's where I capture tasks and projects, things that I like to say is things that I make a commitment to doing on any level of my life. It goes in OmniFocus.
And then Evernote.
I will say, newest feature of OmniFocus that I just love, that I haven't been able to use. I've been using the Siri, tell Siri to remind me to do something, how it just gets swept right into OmniFocus. It's awesome. Gotta love that. If you're an OmniFocus iPhone user, that is awesome sauce.
All right. Then we got Evernote. I use Evernote much in the same way you use Evernote. I don't know how many notes I have. It's probably in the hundreds. Passwords, product license keys, snapshots, like photographs of whiteboards, all sorts of crazy stuff in Evernote. The tagging, the searching, really just the searching is just so good in Evernote, the ability to get to things. We're going to talk a little bit more about Evernote later. And then you picked brain number 3, Salesforce.com. I feel like you're missing a brain. We could talk about Salesforce.com all till the days.
It was my honorable mention, was the 3rd brain, 4th brain.
That wasn't even the one.
Oh.
Because I think about, if I were to say like have to write this type of article. I think your honorable mention of Google Drive is valid and worthy of being a brain.
Right.
But I think you're missing one that I
could not live without. What is it?
Calendar.
Oh, interesting.
I just can't live without my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, I'm not doing it. If it's on my calendar, I'm doing it. It's one of those types of things. So like,
that's true. I don't think of it as I don't think it's so much as, well, first of all of my calendar events that are important to me come from some other source. So I guess I wrote.
Well, not really.
Well, Salesforce. So
yeah, but you don't put take dog to vet in Salesforce.
No, that goes on the family calendar, which was the blog post weeks
sure,
ago.
Which is another brain, because if take dog to vet on a specific day time wasn't on your calendar, you wouldn't take the dog to the vet, because we are that in that way. Like, you know, someone will say to me, we were supposed to do this. We had plans to do this. And it's like, well, did we ever like confirm the plans? Well, not really. So it never made it on my calendar. So therefore we didn't do it. Like I also really hate when I put something on my calendar like 3 months ahead of time or in advance. And then, you know, I'm reviewing, and a week or so or 2 weeks before, I'll reach back out to that person and say, hey, just confirming that we're doing this.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I totally forgot. I have
Right.
something else to do now. It's like, well, why didn't you use your fifth digital brain and put that on your calendar 3 months ago so that you knew that we were doing it?
I would say that it's definitely, but to me it's more of a tool than the brain. Like, yes, there are things on there that exist, and yes, but in some ways everything that's on my calendar represents something from somewhere else. Meaning, take dog to vet, while as a calendar event,
will be in your OmniFocus.
Yeah, and so
which
like
will trigger you to create a calendar event.
I mean, calendar is very important. I agree. I think it could be a secondary honor or mention. It's definitely like, you know, again, in the GTD world, it's called your hard landscape, which means you put things on your calendar that are going to happen at that time. A lot of people put things on the calendar that are sort of like, you know, they put tasks on their days, like, oh, I want to call Bob, and they'll put it on, you know, Monday as call Bob. You know, we certainly more often than not use it as a hard landscape. If it is on my calendar, it is pretty much written in gold or blood or whatever, and I need to do that. And, you know, daily exercise to wake up, look at my calendar. I mean, I probably look at my calendar before I go to bed at night, and when I wake up, it's like, what's on my calendar tomorrow? What do I need to do? And especially in our business where, you know, everybody knows we're consultants, your calendar is like, it is a moving, changing thing constantly. It is not something that's like, oh, go to work every day, and then like I used to when I worked at a big firm, I could just go to work, and then when I got to work, I could look at what's on my calendar. It's like, oh, look, I got some meetings today or whatever. It didn't matter. Now it's like, well, today I'm here, and then I was out to lunch with an employee, and then I'll be going to a client. Tomorrow I'm on a flight, and then I'm like, I could be anywhere, and if you don't know what's on your calendar, you don't know what to dress, you don't know what to pack, you don't know. I mean, it does control a lot of the rest of your life. So,
right,
yeah, I could do a whole riff on calendaring. Because
that's the way that I read this article. Is like, oh, what can I? This is like kind of peeling back your brain, or like slicing chunks off your brain, if you will.
Yeah,
that's why. That's how I'm thinking of it. I think
more of its storage. That's what I was thinking.
I'm thinking of it as like, oh, I can use this thing so that I can take back that chunk of my brain and use it for something different. And like the calendar is one of those things. Like, oh, I don't have to remember all these things that I have to do on certain dates and times because I know that they're in my calendar, so I can use my brain to do something more. Yeah. Reasonable.
It's definitely a fair thing. Fair thought.
Fun with brains.
It's a lot of brain talk. And then, you know, I did mention Google Drive, or formerly Docs. It is certainly becoming a bigger and bigger. I do put a lot of stuff into it, and in some ways I do use it as that repository. It's not as trusted as the other three. I trust Evernote 100%. If I throw something in Evernote, I never think, is it going to show up? You know, is it anywhere? The three things that these things all do, which is, you know, they're all cloud based, right? Well, actually, they all have a cloud element to them.
Have a component.
OmniFocus syncs, so I don't use a cloud version of OmniFocus, but it just shows up wherever I am.
There is no cloud version of OmniFocus,
no, there isn't.
Right? It's just client apps that sync.
Right.
It's the iCloud model, if you will.
I mean, it is. That's the model. I love that model. And then Salesforce, obviously, is sort of the other way. It's only cloud. Right?
And then there's devices.
Right.
You can
and then Evernote's
access
actually both. Evernote is both something that syncs, so you can both get to it hard copy offline on the plane, but you can also log into the web interface, which I use almost
I've never used their web interface.
Right. I mean, it's like an emergency thing. It's on every device I have.
I generally use it on the phone or the Mac application.
Yep.
But speaking of Evernote,
yeah,
and Google Drive, because I think this is
it.
I'm doing it to you, because I think this is an interesting area of discussion. Evernote for Business is here, and is it right for your team? This is a article written on ReadWrite Web, or I guess they're not really ReadWrite Web anymore. I guess they're just ReadWrite.com. And at the Le Web conference on Tuesday in Paris, the Evernote CEO announced the launch of Evernote for Business.
Right.
So this is a closed-in, private, I guess you would call it a folder, that would be for your business, or series of subfolders that is controlled centrally and has like permissions around it. And what's interesting about it is that it's embedded within your regular Evernote too. So it's not like a separate Evernote.
That's good.
Like, Google Drive, if you have a personal Gmail account and a Google Apps account, you have two Google Drives, as opposed to this model where you have your Evernote and then you have folders. They're controlled by administrators. When you leave the company, you lose access to that folder, and you continue to have access to your personal stuff. Don't know how, like, the whole ins and outs of like how easy it is. Can I just copy stuff from one folder into my personal folder? Don't know, not sure. But I thought that this was interesting because the CEO, Phil Lieben, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Phil likes to liken Evernote to an external brain.
Right.
And you just wrote an article about how Evernote is one of your external brains.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting potential competitor to Google Drive in a way, with collaborating around like notes. If you think about a lot of what we do with Google Drive is just taking a lot of notes in Google Docs.
So question, does it have real-time collaboration?
No, I'm not going to be able to answer any of these questions really.
What use are you?
I don't know the answer. I think it's more just shared notes.
Yeah, I'm looking over the product list, and again, as an Evernote user, and someone's been using Evernote ever since Merlin Mann, shout out, talked about it as sort of the greatest thing ever. I have been using it and love it. So I'm looking at this like, ooh, Evernote Business. What do I get if I were to sort of roll this out for Arkus? What would it or could it replace?
Yeah, I don't think it's for us. I mean, just looking at I would like to compare it to the Google Drive, and what you get with Google Drive, because you're not just getting Google Drive, you're getting Google Apps, you're getting email, you're getting Calendar, you're getting Drive, you're getting
$4 a month.
Right. And this is $10 user a month, and you're getting shared notes.
Right.
So to me, the price point isn't right. Like,
that's the thing. Google has really, and this maybe break us into a whole rat hole, cloud hole. Just did that. I don't know what happened.
Is there such a thing?
It's a cloud hole.
I'm going to just call you a cloud hole from now on.
Cloud hole. Is that Google gives so much for that $50 per, and now they do monthly billing. So, for $50 a year per person, they give you so much. It's hard to compete against. Now, whether you even use a percentage of it, it's like hard to compete against something.
Even if you just used it for email and calendar,
right?
Or forget the calendar. Even if you just used it for email,
or $4 a user per month,
it's a bargain
for 25 gigabytes or whatever it is,
and you pretty much don't have to worry about it.
Right?
Won't go down.
Right. Offline, online, use
tons of
apps,
space.
Use it online.
Use it on a client, wherever you want to use it. Yeah. Just use it. It's great. And then you start layering things on. Calendar. Okay, now I've got a nice suite.
It's like
email, calendar.
I'd pay $1 for calendaring.
Then you add Drive. It's like, ooh, now I've got an offline cloud syncing of physical documents and online collaborative real-time documents. Oh boy, this is really starting to get very interesting. Oh, and I have chat. Okay, cool. So I've got presence. I can use Google Voice. I could call.
Google
I can make
Plus.
Google
I
Plus.
could get social.
You could get social if you
Oh,
want.
the mix is a ton of stuff
Yeah.
for the enterprise.
Oh
Anyway.
yeah, it's a good deal.
It,
I don't know why anyone would, for $10 a user a month, leveraging the already existing free desktop apps, the web, the Mac app, the iOS, the Android, Windows, desktop, whatever. You get 2 gigs of monthly upload allowance, and the company as a whole gets a separate 2 gig bucket for shared notebooks.
Okay.
But to me, that's like, all right, just give me Google Drive.
What I'm sure is a little bit better. Well, a couple of things I like about Evernote better than Google Drive: tagging. Right, I could tag. I wish Google Drive I could tag things.
Yeah,
you can't tag
it used to. Before it was Google Drive and it was Google Docs, you could sort of tag things because you could put things in multiple folders.
So I could see this
now it's a one folder system.
Yeah, I could see this as a way to I don't know. I mean, I love Evernote, but I love it personally. It's kind of like Dropbox. Like I love Dropbox, but I love Dropbox personal. I don't like Dropbox corporate. And it's where, if you want to bring in the Salesforce element of this conversation, so we can make a little Salesforce out of it, as I drop down a little bit, shows you where does Chatterbox fit into this? Because now Chatterbox is not a it is not.
Don't make any definitive statements.
Well, I'm going to say
because you really
what I've
don't
seen.
know exactly what it's going to be.
I've seen what it's not online collaboration, real-time editing of documents. It's not. Okay.
Probably not.
So I can say that it's not.
In all likelihood, it will not be that.
What it is syncing offline, desktop level, folder level, which is something that Evernote doesn't have, right? You don't go to a folder called Evernote on your desktop.
No.
And for a lot of what I do, I like offline folder access. I like having folders that I can drag stuff into, even if they end up syncing to someplace in the sky. I mean, my favorite thing to do is to throw boarding passes. I just throw them into I have a folder on my desktop called Inbox or Outbox. I have 2, and I just save the PDF into that folder. Well, that folder is actually an alias to a Dropbox folder. By doing that, I know, boom, it's everywhere I need it to be. It's like I know I can get to my boarding pass on my phone, on my thing. It's like, so I don't think about these things anymore. But I still want a folder. I could have saved that to Evernote. Look at that, Chatter's chatting me.
That's terrible. You have that on?
Yeah, I leave that on.
Ugh.
My iPad Mini just chattered me with Chatter. Anyway, I love it. I love Evernote. I think they got to make money. I mean, I signed up for the premium. I will say, if you are a serious user, here's where I consider everybody in Arkus getting an Evernote account.
Well,
right?
I'm a serious user of Evernote, but I don't pay for it.
You're looking at me like, well, how do I get? Here's why I would possibly say Arkus gets Evernote, because at the bottom line, Evernote Business Premium, everybody who gets Evernote Business, their account turns into a premium account. Why is that important? Security. I can then lock down. They can lock down on your devices. So right now, your iPhone, your iPad, I log in, I get to your Evernote. That's all your passwords. That's all your everything.
You're in.
So maybe as a company, if you know your employees are using Evernote to track anything, you're like, I could help them by giving them the ability to lock down their devices.
It's their own well, like I would hope that maybe we'll take this offline. But I don't store any of my.
Can I call in? Wait, let me call in the HR department here.
Head
of IT. He just showed up.
I just called myself. Yeah. I don't keep Arkus specific passwords.
I'm sure all of our clients are very happy about that.
In Evernote, I mean, that is not where that goes.
Right.
Evernote is a there is a big wall between personal and business, and anything business goes in the business stuff.
Question.
Yeah.
So in Google, you need 2-factor authentication, and there's application-specific passwords that you need to have.
There are.
Do you put those in Evernote?
Oh yeah, those are in Evernote. I guess they are.
So I'm putting applications.
Can't really do anything with it though.
Yeah, you can. You can log into. You can use them to log in on certain things into your Google, which they get to you into other places. So, again, this is why. But this is the new world, and I think this is why. Again, bringing back to Chatterbox and Salesforce and all that stuff. When Salesforce says it's like Dropbox, but from a company you trust, which I think is a very powerful thing to say, you have to start looking at Evernote and saying, okay, you want to get into business. Great. Do you have 2-factor authentication? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Do you encrypt? at this level? Do you encrypt on the desktop level? Oh, you don't? Okay. I mean, there's certain things that I would look at and I'd go, well, you really want to play in that space, you got to play like the big boys. Dropbox, by the way, has two-factor authentication. Salesforce has two-factor authentication. Google has some of the best two-factor authentication. These are things that are sort of need to have. So great, getting into into the start of this. I like it. I think it's I want more of these places. I love Evernote, but I think when you get into enterprise and when you say it's Evernote for business, I think you need to step up on some of those games, and their security right now isn't as good as others. So
right. All right. Well, let's move right along our agenda.
That was the worst Segui you've ever had.
Well, not everything has to be some made up,
you should be
thing.
Here you go. And speaking of business, here's the top 10 mistakes, classic mistakes of fake software development projects.
I don't feel like your segues are always so smooth,
They're
my friend.
Awesome.
Let's talk about some of these. There's 10 in this article on Tech Republic. Again, Mike Gerhold, Button Click Admin, tweeted it, which is where we saw it and read it, because we love 10 classic mistakes that plague software development projects. We figured we'd each pick one. Now, I've got the one that I want to talk to.
Start.
So, number 6. Poor communications. So, to me, even if a project is going awry or going bad, it can't ever go that bad if you communicate well, right? Like, you can always have the misery of just not being able to do something, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, we're done. But if you're communicating the entire way, it won't go there. Like, generally in IT, you have the business, and then you have the IT team, and if the IT team is communicating properly with the business, then the business is always up to speed, not trying to force things down people's throats or try and solve the problems themselves, because they get where things are at every given moment. Vice versa, right? If the business is not communicating correctly with IT, then IT can be going down a path that the business has, we sat in a meeting a week ago and never told you that we made a decision we didn't want that. So communication to me is an extremely important aspect of any project going well.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
this is like a top 10 mistakes, so the mistake would be poor communication.
Right. I think there's 2 in here. I'll make 11th. I'll make a number. I'll maybe make it.
There's one missing?
Yeah, I think
what's the one that's in here that you'd pick?
Well, I'm instead of doing that, I'm gonna make it all 11.
Oh, all right.
Which I think is the biggest and most important thing you can do.
It might already be in here.
I look for it. I can find it. Is not chunking. It's somewhere between. I don't know. I don't have a headline for it, but it's the idea of being iterative and not making things into one big massive project and breaking them into things that can be shown, right? So I didn't kind of see that. To me, software development projects, the best thing you can do is use the iterative process, use agile methodology, get things in front of people fast. The faster you get it in front of the user or the business or whatever, the quicker you learn if you've done it well or not. It's, read Eric's, the Lean Startup, read Cathedral and the Bazaar, read Agile Methodology books. The best thing to do, and I've been in software development for, I don't know, maybe 20 years, no, not 20 years, 17, 16 years, something like that. Get it in front of people, because the sooner you do, you'll know, am I on track? Am I doing right? Or am I off track? And you're going to get the feedback. I always am most worried when a client doesn't look at something and goes, oh, yeah, it's great. I'm like, yeah, that's when I know there's a warning. It's like, oh, you didn't look at it. Like, have you really looked at it? I love when a client's in there telling me, oh, I got to move a field. Can we move that? They have like an hour-long discussion. Sorry, guys. But that they decide, should that field be below the name or to the left of the name? And I'm like, okay, well, now you're in. You're looking at the details. You're, maybe not looking at the big stuff, but you're looking at the details. Let's get in there. Let's talk about it. I mean, we talk about the agile methodology. We talk about doing Salesforce projects, which is a great platform for it because you can build things very quickly and show it to them very quickly. That to me is the number one thing I've just seen in software development. And the biggest projects I've ever seen that the worst ever went were like, they drop off, requirements deck 40 or 100.
I think that was actually one of the
Which one was it?
There. It was
It didn't seem like it
it's
was
in there. Like there's one in there that talks to that.
Well, there's the
specific
pregnant woman
problem.
mistake, which
No,
is
I think it's the constructing a wall of process one.
Yeah.
I think that hits on that a little bit, where it's like, every single thing needs to go through a 12-step process before it hits a piece of paper, which then gets signed off by 2 more people.
Oh yeah.
And then it goes into a change log, which is logged. And now you've got like 22 people on a project just logging stuff.
That's another good one. I don't know if it's in here, but one of the other things I've seen in big software projects that is wrong is like where if I were writing this, I'd say living for the status. Like I find that people, and we've been on projects, and you're looking at me nodding, like knowing
you mean the red versus the green?
Yeah, where people's the weekly status meeting, and the biggest thing about the project in any one stage of the project was not what's being built or can I look at it?
Is it red or is it green?
It was literally what is the color of the status bar on the big printable or the big printed out Excel sheet that someone's in full-time job is to maintain that Excel sheet and all the open issues. And I just remember sitting through these meetings week after week after week, and no matter what was going wrong, no matter what, it was just like living for that status. The project was absolutely in the worst case, but because we could mitigate the risk, or these issues were not high level or whatever, it was like, it's green. And you're like, but we're way over budget, and it's green. And everybody lived for that status meeting. So it's like, sometimes and I almost want to say, like, sometimes if you set something up that's like totally repeating every single time, and it's like people start to just go into a sleep, like the software sleep, where it's like, oh, show up at the Wednesday status report meeting, next Wednesday status reporting meeting, and then end up 6 months later, you're like, have we done anything? No, but we had 70 status report meetings, and it was green the whole time. How about doing status report meetings when you need statuses? Otherwise, how about do the work? Like, all those 17 people around the table, why aren't you guys doing something? Like, go build stuff or do stuff.
This does not come from the large company that shall remain nameless at all.
Are you being facetious?
I'm just trying to throw it out there. It doesn't come from there.
Oh, yeah, it does.
No.
Mine? My example I just gave? Oh, you are trying to be serious. No, it's not like those huge companies spend millions of dollars on software that doesn't get produced.
Never.
That does not happen.
That doesn't happen.
Boy, I wonder if any of those people actually listen. I mean, can you imagine if could they figure it out and be like, really? That's what we were like?
Really?
Really?
That's what those two people are up to
I'll
these
give
days?
I'll give an example, a side example, since we're talking about projects and software development.
All right.
One of our clients has recently engaged us took our advice from the beginning. It's actually, you're running them, so you know this, but took our advice from the beginning of the project, where they had a lot they wanted to do, and it was like a huge list of stuff.
I know who you're talking about.
And they wanted to do this big project. Like, I want to do a big project. Da, da, da. And we said, listen, break those into phases, make them quick, make them phased, have them start and stop, and you'll get there. But and it's hard for people to say phases, because in traditional software development, phase 2 could be never. Like, I've seen phase 2s never happen. So people, day 2, phase 2. So they get scared to say things phase 2, because they're like, well, that means that won't happen, right? Because I know, because I've been in these big projects. We've literally done 4 phases with them. I think we're about to start a 5th or 4th.
No, we're entering 4 now.
Entering 4, but that's like...
But it's only been like 3 months of total elapsed time, and they've been, nice phases.
With about a week and a half off between each phase.
Yeah, like real nice functionality delivered in a really nice, agile, iterative method, so that each time they've been given something very functional, very usable, and people are like really using it.
Right. Because then you also
they had to use it.
Because by the time you get to phase 4, and we say this a lot, when you get to phase 4, you've already done 3 phases, so you know so much more, as opposed to if you just projected 4 months ago what you wanted to do. I find lots of clients just change their mind, because they get to the first phase, and they're like, oh, that thing that I thought was so important, not so important anymore.
This particular client was very smart about taking our advice, and also is very smart about the way that they know themselves.
Right.
They know themselves that if they would have given me phase 4 3 months ago and said, do all this stuff,
right,
they wouldn't have gotten what they wanted.
Right. Right. And now they get, but it takes, it does take more effort, because you definitely have to, Like the testing cycle happens 4 times, the release cycle happens 4 times, so you have to put in more effort, but you definitely get much better things out of it. And again, you can validate, are we on the right track after the first, second, and third phase without having to get to the 5th phase and be like, oh, we're way off. Plus, you get something usable and that can hopefully move the needle of business. I mean, this is a lot of what they talk about in the big switch, big change,
Big switch.
which is that the speed of business is so
We're
fast.
both looking over our shoulders for it, but
Yeah, I
I
don't
think,
see it.
I think
we
one
went
of
to-
our newest employees has taken it with them to read.
Yes, it's on the Arkus reading list. Anyway, read that. Great book, but really talking about how...
Nicholas Carr.
Oh, good job.
Yeah,
Good
well,
job.
the reason why...
We saw him speak.
We saw him speak
Yeah.
before it was CloudForce.
It was like... Yeah, I don't know if it was called CloudForce.
It was in New York. It was it was right after the Dreamforce where they announced Force.com. So they were like showing off Visual Force like for the first time. Like you were able to see Visual Force. It was kind of cool.
Right.
And Nicholas Carr was like sort of like a keynote speaker.
Right.
Where he spoke about this is where things are going. That was probably back in, I want to say 2007, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that was a while ago.
Probably.
You
I'm
are then
looking at
looking up
this-
at the
That
Marketo.
Marketo infographic of the Dreamforces. I think it was in late 2007, early 2008. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's
All right,
talk. Oh, you just changed your pick.
Yeah, I did.
Why? Because you didn't want to get ridiculed by me.
Because
You didn't want to get ridiculed.
All right, I'll pick both.
Well, no.
Well,
Pick-
I can't. I
pick
can do
that-
whatever I want.
No, you
I'm
can't.
crazy.
No, you can't.
Go first.
No.
That's the only thing that's not
All
going
right,
to
I'm
change.
picking a game.
What? You can't play games on
Yes,
this
I
podcast.
can. Absolutely.
Better be a cloud game.
It's pretty awesome.
All right.
It's so addicting. It's so cool.
Let me guess. You flick something towards something else for
No,
17 hours
It's
at
like
a time.
a puzzle game.
Puzzle game?
Yeah, it's cool. It's a puzzle. It's called Flow Free for iOS. I think they have it for Android too. It's really Flow. And it's free from Big Duck Games LLC. So Big Duck Games. You can find it on the App Store, an app store near you. And it's a puzzle. Like you get there are 4 different colored dots, and there are 2 of each dot on like a graph on a board.
Right.
And you have to connect the 2 colored dots and fill in all the squares in the graph without, you can't like overlap or go over any lines.
Okay.
So like the lines have to be independent. You can't like cross over. Like if there's a blue dot and an orange dot, you can't take the blue line and go over the orange line.
I think I saw someone playing this on the plane the other day.
They might have been, because it's really addicting. Once you start, you can't stop. And it starts with like a 5x5
Right.
grid with 4 colors, and it goes all the way up to a 9x9 grid,
Okay.
where it gets really, really hard.
It does have 21,000 customer reviews or ratings. That's crazy.
It's like, I feel like it's the new hot, like, what was that? Draw something?
Draw something.
I feel like this is like the next draw something.
But there's
I might
nothing
be
about
a-
it with
I might be a
people. You just
few-
play it by yourself.
You just play it by yourself, but it's fun as all can be, and it's really addicting. You download that on your little iPad Mini, you'll have a lot of fun.
Oh, is it universal?
Yeah, go
Oh,
on the
I like-
get it on the Mini, because it's good on the Mini. It's a nice, perfect size for it,
I was just actually going
and
to
it's
say,
free.
I'm actually texting the wife because you picked the game, so I was gonna fire back with the game. She's playing this game that she just loved, and literally every time I look over her, she's playing it. So I was just gonna try to find it out, but maybe I'll wait for next week.
Flow Free is really good little like time waster. Like, you know, you're sitting there, you're like, oh, there's a commercial. I'm gonna just play like 2 rounds of Flow Free, and boom, boom, you do a couple rounds, and then the show's back, and you put the Mini down. I'm addicted to my Mini, by the way.
Oh, the
I
Mini
use it
is
so much more than I ever used my iPad.
Here's the thing. I'd love to know if I had handed you. So I know you probably think it's because it's the Mini, but I have a theory that anything new given to someone that has new functionality they didn't have before, then becomes loved. Like it's
Untrue. I had
an old iPad. I know,
but I bought it when it came out.
I know,
and I didn't use it.
And it lost its love and feeling.
No, but I didn't use it when I got it.
Oh. Right, but then getting a new one, and then you hook it up, and you're like, oh, now I can use it for all this stuff.
No, but then I started using my iPad.
Right, it became your bed pad.
But now I have the mini, and I think it's really just the size, the weight of it. Like, now I pick up the little lady's iPad, and I'm like, this is freaking heavy.
Oh, I picked up the iPad 3. Oh, I have an iPad 3
This
at
is
home.
so heavy.
No, it is. It's too heavy.
I'm like, this is too heavy. Why did I ever have one of these?
I don't want one of these. No, the iPad mini is awesome. I traveled with it, so I did because that was the one thing I was worried about. Like, okay, but the screen, when I'm traveling, I want to watch a video. I was watching.
No, I just watched the entire first season of Deadwood on HBO Go on my iPad mini, and it was great.
So I was
great.
Traveling.
It was so good.
He's
just gonna keep interrupting.
He's trying to interrupt me now. And I watched Gold Rush, season 2 of Gold Rush.
Yeah,
and I'm really enjoying it.
Season 2's good.
And watching on the mini and putting the mini on the in the plane in front of me and watching it.
Yeah,
I would say is not as nice as watching it on a big.
Sure.
But the drawback of having this tiny little thing that like
weighs
is so
nothing.
light. Yeah, it is truly something. It'll be a big. You were
watching Gold Rush season 2.
Season 2
on Netflix streaming.
No,
you bought it.
I bought it.
You bought it.
Yeah,
couldn't wait.
You can't stream it on planes anyway.
They won't let you.
No,
it's just too slow.
But I was saying the whole thing about buying iTunes. I mean, yes, you pay for it, but man, you want an episode, you can download 2 to your thing, show all, download another one, delete it when you're done with it. I mean, like the management of the episodes once you have bought it is like it's
you don't
so
have
nice.
to sync the whole season over.
No.
You just grab a few.
Yep,
good to go.
Yeah. And you get to the hotel. Oh, I just watched 2. Let me get 2 more before I get back on the plane. It's like that is. So
I'm going on
a
cruise
experience.
in December, and I'm going to bring the mini with me.
Yep.
But that's the kind of thing where you sort of have to load her up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can't rely on the cruise for Wi-Fi.
No, I went on one last year.
Like, you want to download
25
something?
25 cents a minute.
Yeah, you want to download something? That'll take 4 hours and will cost you about $600 to download your episode.
You get the ports, and then you hook up to a 4G hotspot, and then you download stuff on that one. It's hot stuff.
That's
all right,
a good idea.
I'm gonna make my pick. I changed my pick. Have I picked this?
Maybe.
Really?
Why don't you just stick with your original pick, and I'll just make fun of you about it?
No. Why don't I just go look up to see if I've actually picked this?
I feel like you did not pick this. I feel like you picked the Google version of this.
I picked the Google version of it?
Yeah.
Oh no, I picked the Reader.
Yeah. I feel like you did the Google Music or something.
I'm searching through our
You
picks.
didn't.
Okay.
Just do this anyway.
This is a neat little app, and I'll tell you why it's so. There's tons of different versions of this piece of software. It's called the Amazon Cloud Player. Why would you want this? Well, Amazon, for you Amazon people, and for you Prime people who
I didn't even realize the little lady's a Prime person.
Yes.
So I've got it.
Yes. Well, you have to sign in with her account on this.
Whatever.
But you then get access to, they have 10,000 videos. And we talked about when I bought the Roku, like you get Amazon Prime. Well, this is their version of the ability to watch their videos on the iPad. So it's called the Amazon Cloud Player. So for things like...
Oh, yeah, 30 for 30.
30 for 30.
Well, those are on Netflix, too.
Right, they're on Netflix. But I think with this, you can take a copy down in the player.
Really?
Maybe I can't.
That would be nice.
I thought that was the thing you could do that was so hot with it.
30 for 30s I love.
So it's kind of like it's compared to Netflix in that, but if you have an Amazon Prime membership and you don't have Netflix, you get all this stuff. They have tons and tons of movies. It's a nice little app on the again for on your iPad. So you can basically, it's the only way you can watch all those Amazon videos that you have access to or buy on your thing. So it's called Amazon Cloud, or it's called Amazon Instant Video, Amazon Cloud Player. Available, I think they just updated it with for iPad Mini viewing.
Nice.
It's just I say this to my wife all the time. I say we're in the golden age of TV.
Golden age.
Totally.
So much good television.
Well, the best
and
television
you can watch
ever
it wherever.
Yeah, the best TV that's ever been produced, I think. I think TV now, and I probably have had this on the podcast, TV for me is better than movies. I don't enjoy movies as much because TV shows are so good, so involving. You watch...
Especially with the cable dramas have really stepped it up.
The
hour-long dramas on cable, like
commas.
the AMCs, the FXs,
Yeah.
HBO, Showtime, like
Yep.
all those networks have really good shows.
I saw a teaser on the bus for Game of Thrones on a bus.
Ooh.
331
Can't
13.
wait. Let's do it.
I was like, I'm now
I'm in.
salivating.
Let's do it.
Anyway, so that's my Amazon Cloudware free and all the content. The nice thing is if you're a Prime member, there's tons and tons of stuff you can watch for free.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so use your Amazon Cloud Player. And, it's more cloudy stuff. All right, that's it for us. Head to blog.arkusinc.com to get all the blog posts and podcasts. Head to twitter.com/arkusinc if you want to follow the company, or facebook.com/arkusinc. We're also on the Google Plus and on the LinkedIn. You can find us there. Just search for Arkus. And if you want to follow either Justin or myself, we're at twitter.com/justedelstein and twitter.com/jasonmatwood. Until next week, we'll be back with another episode of CloudFocus Weekly and more picks and more random discussions of facts that you didn't know. Until then, and as always, enjoy those cloudy days.